What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. So, good to get the win. Good to move on to the semifinals of the Carabao Cup, but the performance again just leaves a lot to be desired. And what's frustrating about that is Tuchel finally gives the youngsters a chance. You know, you got Simon's on the right wing back, you've got Vale and Soonsup-Bell, I think is how you say it. You've got the three of them playing, and you've also got Webster and Hall on the bench, which they didn't get in. But you got three youngsters, and Vale is one that's highly rated. Soonsup-Bell, I've heard his name on the score sheet several times for our under 23s, and Simons I haven't really heard a whole lot about, but three of them have a chance to do something. And given that chance, Vale did okay. Soonsup-Bell is just walking around. Like, I don't know, maybe he's just one of those strikers like Lukaku that just waits for the game to come to him and he's a good finisher, but you can't do that when you're at the senior level. Maybe that works at U23s. You can't do that when you come here. You should be working your butt off trying to get on the ball and make something happen. But he walked around for most of his time until he was subbed at halftime. And then Simons, he looks slow. He looks like he's just not really sure where to be. Maybe he doesn't normally play right wing back. Maybe he's more of a fullback or a winger and just kind of stuck in between the two. He doesn't know what to do. But yeah, I mean, it just felt like the energy out there was so low today that, cool, we've got youngsters playing. They're not going to be able to do much. Even Vale, who did look good when he was on the ball, he didn't get on the ball that much because the players around him were just so lacking in energy. The ball movement was slow. When we were off the ball, a lot of standing and watching and on our heels. So we weren't really doing much with it. We had a lot of possession, but couldn't do anything with it because it was just constantly passing back and forth, and the passing was slow, and there's 2 or 3 touches every single time. So, yeah, I don't know. I just glad to see that he finally, after all this time, it took most of our first team going out through injury or illness for Tuchel to finally give our academy players a chance. But I don't know. I'm disappointed still with the quality and with the energy levels that I'm seeing. So, talk individuals. Kepa had to make a few good saves. He's looking okay right now. I mean, Mendy's still the first choice, but with Mendy having to go out for the African Cup of Nations, it looks like Kepa's going to be able to step into the spot and at least be good enough. I don't think he's going to be world class. I don't think he's going to save games for us, but he's not going to be giving away games as much right now, I don't think. Could just be that he's not really faced his typical issues before, or that he had before. But based on what I'm seeing, he's at least looking like he wants to be involved, looking like he wants to move his feet, looking like he's ready and aware of what's coming at him. So it's a step up in the right direction. In the back line, you have Aspilicueta, Chalobah, and Sarr, which is not completely youngsters. A little bit of experience, a little bit of youth in there. Just kind of an interesting mix. Sarr, probably the best game that he's had so far because he's not really been playing well, in my opinion. But today, one thing that worked for him is a lot of the game was in front of him. And I feel like when I've seen him struggle, it's typically on crosses or when the ball gets sent in behind him. Typically, he doesn't know what to do positioning-wise and tracking back, not sure which man he has. So today, a lot of what he did was balls in front of him, and all he has to do is just step up and make a challenge. So kind of almost wondering if he would be better in the center of the back three, because again, he's not looked good, but also he's always played on this left side of the back three. So maybe being in the center, if the whole game was just in front of him, I don't think he'd be an organizer like Silva is, but maybe it would allow him to not have to worry about, I've got to track this specific man and I got to worry about crosses to my side. If he were able to just be in the middle and just read the game in front of him and everything's in front of him and he could see the whole field, maybe he would be better. That's just based on what I saw today. The first time I've actually thought he had a solid game, that's what it was. It was just all he had to do was step into the midfield and make some challenges and be aware. And that's really the only challenge he had. So, but there were still some moments, and like I said, the issues come, cross to the back post, and is he picking up the guy in front of him, or is he picking up the guy that's making the run in behind him? Most of the time he's kind of stuck in between, and it's just not really sure what to do. Crosses from his side, he does fine because again, it's in front of him, so he doesn't have to worry about what's going on behind him. And then balls over the top too. He's not really sure. Should I go to this man? Should I let Chalaba handle it? Should I go to that guy? So he's just kind of stuck in between. And thankfully, Chalaba was on top of his game today. And yeah, Chalaba was probably our best player overall. Just very confident back there. Looked comfortable in the middle, which I thought earlier on in the season he didn't look like he'd be comfortable in the middle. But today I thought he did well, made some good last-ditch challenges. The only real issue that I have is, it's not really his fault, but the middle player, typically I want to be a bit more of an organizer, making sure the two defenders next to him are connected with him. And he pretty much the only defender we have right now that does that, because I don't want to say he's the only one that's bad at that. Christensen's not good at it either. So Silva's really the only defender that I feel like does a good job of keeping that defensive three connected and working together as a unit. Because there were definitely times when it felt like they're kind of making similar runs trying to defend or not really sure who's picking up what man, and so they just sort of have to defend the area and defend the ball. And there were a couple times that Brentford made some clever runs that kind of mixed us up and created some good chances. Didn't happen a whole lot, though. Brentford seemed to be lacking in the attack today. So I think that worked in our favor, but Jalaba still held his own. For what he had to deal with, I thought he did a good job of making sure they didn't really have any good chances. And then Azpilicueta looked more like the Azpilicueta I'm used to seeing because he has looked a little rusty and a little slower recently. He did end up moving James into that right center back position once Tony came on. So I think Azpilicueta does lack a little bit of pace, and those balls over the top is something that he struggled with before. One-on-one situations he's normally very good at, but yeah, having to chase back is not his strong suit because he doesn't have that much pace. But still, overall today, very solid. Much more the defender that I'm used to seeing him be. And then in the midfield, kind of an interesting, when I say interesting, I mean weird midfield, because for a while I wasn't really sure what it was. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be 2 in there, if it was supposed to be 3 in there. It kind of felt like wrong is the best term I could think of. And a lot of that I think is just down to Barkley being in there. Barkley, when he's in the midfield, he doesn't play like a midfielder. He plays like an attacking midfielder. And I think what it was supposed to be was Saul was the holding mid, Kovacic and Barkley were kind of box to box. But that's not what Barkley does. Barkley does what he wants to do, which is stay up top and just wait for the ball to come to him so that way he can take 5 touches and lose it. So I think that was what it was supposed to be, and it looked much more like that once Jorginho came on and he moved there and Saul moved off to the left, and then Conte came on and it definitely looked much more like the 3 that I was expecting it to be. Jorginho holding, Saul and Conte being the box-to-box midfielders. So that was a little weird and I think a little uncomfortable because we don't normally play with 3 in there, but as far as the performances in there, Saul... So one of the things my dad likes to talk about when it comes to ratings is apparently when they rate people online out of 10, 6 means that you did your job, nothing great, nothing fantastic, but also no real issues either. You're there. You're a player, you performed, you did your job, and that's it. This is the closest performance for me that Sal's gotten to a 6. Still had a couple issues, still had some giveaways, still had some defensive lacking capabilities, but I thought overall he was fine. He looked much more comfortable. He actually worked a bit harder today than I've seen him work. This is the closest that he's gotten to at least just being average. So take from that what you will, because he's had several chances. That tells you something, that this is the closest he's gotten to average. He didn't really do anything great today, but he didn't hurt us, so it's a step in the right direction. But again, the fact that out of one performance out of 5 or 6 this season, he's had an average performance, the rest of them have just been awful, it's kind of hard to say that he should stay. I still feel like we need to send him back to Atletico. He's not good for the Premier League. Get him out of here, because he's not good enough. Kovacic looked okay. Had some giveaways that were pretty scary at times, But overall, I thought his work rate on the ball was fine, and he was probably our most progressive player in the first half, just trying to make something happen. So it's kind of like he made some mistakes, but he did enough good on the ball that it kind of balanced itself out. Whereas Mr. Do Nothing and look at me and I just want to be on the ball and make something happen and give it away. Yeah. I've talked about how Barkley, he's not really been hurting us recently, but he's not been helping us either. Today, he hurt us and didn't help us. Several giveaways, and I don't know how he does it, but he always happens to give the ball away at the worst times. A bad giveaway that leads to a counterattack is typically Barkley's MO, or at least it was today. So just so many times where it felt like bad giveaway, chance for Brentford. Bad giveaway, chance for Brentford. And just no defensive work rate either. He's jogging back after he gave the ball away. It's embarrassing. And also something else I noticed about him today. I promise I'm not going to rant too much about Barkley. I had to get a little bit off my chest. If you watch him, right? If you watch him play, I think 90% of the time when he receives the ball, he takes 4 or more touches. Now Kovacic also, when you give him the ball, will probably take somewhere 4 to 6 touches somewhere in there. However, Kovacic's 4 to 6 touches here, about like 25 out from our goal, to here, about 30 out from theirs. That's his 4 to 6 touches. Barkley's 4 to 6 touches, here, about 30 yards out from their goal, to here, about 29 yards out from their goal. And then we'll just pass it off to somebody that was there the entire time as he's sitting there chopping back and forth with nothing to do. Just, oh man, it's so frustrating. So frustrating to watch him. So frustrating that he's an option. I'm in the middle of a review. Stop texting me. So frustrating to watch him just give it away and then not work back to win it back. So frustrating to watch him chop back and forth and then pass it off when the pass was there the whole time and you just wasted 10 seconds of my life having to watch that. We had 3 youngsters, Saul and Sarr, all on the field, and Barkley was our worst player today. That should tell you how bad he was. So yeah, I've not been too upset with Barkley recently. I've not had too many issues with him. He's just not helped us. Today, I'm back to I don't want to see him again. I don't want to see him play. He's not an option. He's a good option for the other team to have. Not a good option for us. So, don't want to see him again. And then the wingbacks, Alonso, probably our second best player after Chalobah today because he actually looked effective on the ball. He's had a lot of games where typically it's his game because he has a lot of time up top to make something happen, but he's just not really been that effective. Today he looked a lot more effective. He was taking on players, taking it down the line, beating players on the dribble. Now, granted, it's Brentford, so not as difficult an opponent to go up against. But I feel like he looked a lot more lively on the ball today and did create some good chances, which is much more what I expect to see from him. So that was good. Hopefully it continues to improve because obviously we don't have Chilwell for a while and we don't really have another option. So unless we're getting somebody in January, Alonso's going to be our only option over there. So he needs to have more performances that are like this going forward or else we're going to struggle on that left side. And then Simon's on the right side. Again, of the youngsters that were brought up today, Simons was the one I knew the least about because the rest of them I had at least heard their names or seen them play in highlights or in a couple games the past season. Simons I didn't really know anything about, and watching him today, he's not great. He did okay at times. He had some good moments here or there. The shot in the first half was decently struck, but again, he just didn't really seem like he knew what the position was asking him to do. Several times he got caught out because he got pulled too far up the field, and then one ball over the top, and he's got to chase back. And now, granted, Rico Henry is not. He's got a lot of pace. He's a good player, so he was up against good opposition on that side. However, once it happened 1 or 2 times, you would expect him to start to realize, okay, I can't let it happen again. But it happened a couple more times after that, so wasn't really surprised to see he was one of the ones to come off. But for what it was, I thought it was a decent debut for him. I thought it was a good chance to see what he could do, and I thought, all in all, he's okay. I think if you look at where James is, and then you look at where Espili, well, James and Espilicueta are kind of neck and neck. It just depends on whether or not James wants to work that day. But then you look at where Lamptey was. You look at where Livramento is right now for Southampton. Simons is somewhere down here. He's kind of middle of the road, average player. Probably do okay in the Championship, but in the Premier League, I don't think he's quite there. Now, he could get there. Again, I saw some bright spots, saw some moments where it seems like he's a competent player. He knows what he's doing. But positioning, as far as right wing back is concerned, I'm not sure if he's good there. And also just some decision making and some reading of the play has got to improve. But, I mean, he's young, so not going to say he should already be there because that doesn't make any sense. And then into the front three, or well, I guess the front two. It started off as Vale and Soonsup-Bell. And again, Vale looks good. It looks like he's a decent player. Maybe a little slow. Maybe, sometimes turns off a little too much. But, I mean, everybody was kind of playing that way today. Everybody was having those moments where they're kind of walking and they're on their heels when the ball gets passed to them, so they're not ready for it. And the Brentford players are all on their toes, so they're beating our players to it. So to say that was his problem, it was kind of everybody's problem in the first half. Stepped up a little bit in the second half. So taking that out of it, though, I thought he looked promising. He made a lot of good runs, had some good moments on the ball, turned some defenders. Looks like a clever player, and looks like a player that could help us make up the numbers right now, because we are lacking so many players. I don't think he's going to upseed anybody, aside from maybe Barkley and Saul, but I definitely don't think he's going to be an option once everybody is back fully fit. However, where we are right now, I don't understand why he's not been utilized more, why he's not seen the bench at least in the past several games, because we have been lacking numbers. We have had a lot of players out. So watching him today, that's all I can think about is, why is this the first time we're seeing him? Because we could have seen him against Everton's weakened side. We could have seen him against Wolves, maybe. Now, the first time we see him is against Brentford in the Carabao Cup. So it's going to be a big mix of players. He's not really playing with our first team. He's playing with a lot of second teamers and some young players as well. So he's not really going to have the players around him that are going to help him perform. So he's going to struggle at times. So I'm just frustrated in that sense. That's more an issue with Tuchel. But as far as he's concerned for today, though, I thought he looked good. And I want to see more of him. So hopefully Tuchel liked what he saw and gives him a chance, especially over Barkley, because, again, Barkley was awful today. And then Soonsup-Bell, like I said, just not really much from him. Again, I don't know if that's what he normally does and it just works at the U23 level, but you got to work a little harder here. I don't understand that mentality of strikers that feel like, I can just walk around and once you guys send me the ball, then I'll do something. No, you have to make runs. You have to move. You have to do something off the ball, because most of these defenders, they know how to defend. They know how to position themselves to make sure that if you're just standing there and walking, you're never going to see the ball. So it's up to you to make the runs to open up some space for yourself. Now, sometimes it works where the players around you can open up the space for you, but today, especially because we were only going with the two up top and Vale was much more on the left side and he was much more on the right side, he was over there by himself a lot. And Barkley's not going to be making any runs, so you can't rely on him to help make overlapping runs and clear up some space for you. So you've got to be making the runs yourself to open up that space. And he just wasn't doing it enough. Had one or two good moments, had some moments where it felt like he should have done better. So all in all, it was just, I wanted to see more, because we do need options right now. We do need striking options. And he's somebody, again, I've seen his name on the score sheet a lot for our under-23s. So he was an option I hope could step in today and maybe make something happen. So that way we can say, all right, Lukaku and Werner, if you guys are still out for a little bit, at least we can have this kid who can, even if he's not scoring every game, if he's just at least playing the position well and trying to make something happen, we've got something there. But as it stands, our best option without Lukaku and Werner, I still think is Pulisic. I don't think Havertz is good up there. I think Pulisic at least makes runs like a striker should. So, yeah, maybe Webster would be better, but never got a chance to see him, so that was a little disappointing. But, again, to be fair, we had not scored. So I understand why Tuchel said, all right, let's get our first team players on instead of giving the other youngsters a chance. Totally get that. But it was still sad not to see what Webster could do, because I know he's another one that I think has gotten on the score sheet several times. So uh, as far as the subs that came on, first two subs were Pulisic for Soonsup-Bell and then Jorginho for Kovacic. Now, from a Tuchel point of view, Kovacic, I'm assuming, is a fitness thing, because if not, if he actually made the sub because he thought that would help us, I want some of what he's smoking, because he's really got to be out of it. And I honestly, there are times I want to be that out of it where I could say, yeah, Jorginho for Kovacic is a good sub. Um, Pulisic for Soonsup-Bell is fine, but yeah, I mean, based on performance, obviously bringing Jorginho in, he's going to be a better option in the center of a midfield three than Saul is. However, either bring Saul off or you bring Barkley off and then move Saul out to the right, or Kovacic out and Saul. But again, that's assuming that this sub was not a fitness sub or risking an injury sub. I don't know if Kovacic was feeling something. There were times when he looked a little slow in the first half, so maybe he's still feeling something and didn't want to risk it, so that's why he was subbed off at halftime. But that's the only thing that I can think of, because it's not like his first half performance was terrible, and obviously, Saul and Barkley didn't do anything that would say, yes, let's keep them on longer. So that's what I'm assuming happened. But yeah, Jorginho came on, looked okay, had some good moments throughout. He looked comfortable in there, and it definitely was a game that suited him, I think, because it wasn't high energy, it wasn't super fast, super quick pace. So it was a game that he's more suited to, and had some, obviously got himself the penalty, because of course he did. But yeah, I mean, overall just looked okay. And then Pulisic, good energy. He's the one that won the penalty, and again, I think he's our best option right now without Lukaku and Werner, because he just has so much movement and so much energy up top that even though he's not really a striker, he's at least moving the defense around and he's causing them problems, which is what we need right now. Because without a recognized striker, it's going to be easier for teams to defend against us. So if we have somebody in there that can make it difficult to defend, great. I think Pulisic is showing he can do that. But yeah, probably our best substitute that came on. Mount came on for Vale, and James came on for Simons. James did okay. Still want to see a little bit more from him, but I mean, sent in the cross that scored the first goal for us on the own goal, and then after that was moved deeper, I think, to deal with Tony. So overall, he was fine today. Again, I hold him to a high standard because Azpilicueta is such an energetic player. I mean, I forgot to talk about this, but I remember there was one moment at the end of the game where cross came into the back post on the right side, and I just remember there was a Brentford player going to it, and then all of a sudden here comes this Chelsea player, and at first I couldn't tell who it was, but I just see him sprinting and he's catching the Brentford player, and then once it gets close enough to where I can make out who it is, it's Azpilicueta. In like the 90th minute, he's still running his socks off. I'm just like, see, this is why I love this guy. This is why he is one of our best players right now, and why I don't understand why there's all this talk that he's going to be leaving. Why would you not want to keep this energy level? Why would you not want to keep a player who's going to work his butt off for the team time and time again? But that's what I want to see more out of James, because he has more technical ability and more physical ability than Azpilicueta does. But he doesn't work himself hard enough at times, and so at times Azpilicueta looks the better player, even though I do think James could be better than him. So yeah, still frustrated with that, but overall it was better, especially better than he was in the first half against Wolves, because that was awful. So kind of a mixed bag there still, though. And then Mount was okay. I think his form has been kind of hit and miss right now, and I think some of that has been his fitness levels have been kind of an issue recently. Today, his work rate was good again. Still, the quality in the final third needs to improve, and that's something that he had it under Lampard, and then he had it at first under Tuchel, and then there were times whenever he would go out for injury or go out for sickness or something, and then when he would come back, that quality wasn't quite there. I think he's been lacking that quality for a lot of this season, so I hope he can find it again, because we need somebody to finish for us, obviously. Had to rely on a Brentford defender and a penalty today to score. So we need somebody to be that finisher, and Mount was for a while. Now he's kind of dropped out again, and he's not really finding the net. So I hope he can find it again. I hope he can find that form, the scoring form again. And then the final sub was Conte for Barkley. And I feel like that's the one that really changed the flow of the game to allow us to get many more chances. Because we were dominant in control of the game. We had a lot of possession, but we weren't really threatening Brentford today. We weren't really creating a whole lot. When Conte came on for Barkley, I mean, that's like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but it's essentially you bring off, your worst player and put on your best player, and suddenly now you're playing well. I mean, that's basically what happened. He came on so much more energy than Barkley had today. Within the first few minutes, I think he covered more of the field than Barkley did for the entirety of the game he was on. So just so much more work rate, so much more quality on the ball too, which is kind of surprising because typically when I think of Conte, I don't think quality on the ball, but he's been stepping it up recently, and Barkley today just felt like he couldn't get a good touch to save his life for whatever reason. But once that sub happened, though, again, we created so many chances. It looked like we were just almost there. We were almost getting that final ball in. And so once the own goal happened, that kind of opened up the game for us a bit more because Brentford were stepping out, and it made it much easier for us to get in behind. And with Conte out there, it was just going to be a lot easier for us to play. So that was easily the best sub of the game. I think I said earlier that Pulisic was the best of the subs. I forgot Conte came on late because, again, so much movement, so much work rate from him. I honestly felt like he had been on the whole game because he was just that present. But yeah, all in all, it's a win. We're in the semifinals of the Carabao Cup, which is good, but I feel like we're still not there. There's still something lacking in the performances. Yes, we're missing a lot of players. Again, I get it, but it's excuses at this point. We have enough quality, even without our first teamers, that we should still be getting good results. We should still be putting in good performances, but it feels like there's just too much walking, too much standing, not enough energy, too many touches on the ball. We just go back to basics. You don't have the level of quality that you're used to having, so go back to basics, keep it simple, and wait for your moment to strike. But the problem is we hardly ever have those moments because the ball movement is so slow that it's hard to create those chances. Because when it goes from the right side all the way to the left side, and it takes like 5 passes and a full minute to get over there, that's easy for the defense to shift and guard against. Whereas if you're moving the ball quickly and it's boom, boom, all the way across in 2 passes and 2 touches, that's harder to have to shift and defend. And we can create so many more chances that way. But the way we're playing right now, it's too slow. It's too predictable. There's not enough movement off the ball. There's not enough movement on the ball. It's just all too slow, and it's too easy to defend against. So hopefully Tuchel can figure out what he's doing, or hopefully they just get rid of him and say, hey, let's bring in a coach who can actually figure out how to deal with these issues. Because, again, I'm still feeling like that's probably the best option. I know a lot of people disagree. Oh, you just got to give him time. Yeah. How much time do we give him? Do we give him until Arsenal overtakes us in the table? Because once that happens, I mean, pretty embarrassing that lowly Arsenal can overtake us in the table in a few games now because we've given up so many points. But anyways, that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game today? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.